Hi everyone, welcome to lesson number 18. Today we're going to be talking about a man named Gideon. We're transitioning now from the time of the Exodus and wandering in the wilderness and entering into the Promised Land to the next major period in Israel's history, the period of the judges. Gideon was one of those judges. And that's what the introduction talks about on page 64. When the Israelites took over the Promised Land, God commanded them to get rid of all of the people who lived there. They didn't listen to that command. They allowed many of the heathen people to remain. Those people tempted the Israelites to sin, especially to worship false gods. Throughout this time in Israel's history, the people would forget God until he sent some trouble into their lives. This would remind them of what they should have been doing. Then they would call out to God for help, and God would send a champion or judge to help the people. So when we use that word judge, when we talk about the period of the judges, don't think of someone in a courtroom wearing a black robe and overseeing a trial. Not that kind of judge. When we talk about judges in the Bible, really the word there is leader or champion, like it says in the introduction. This is someone who, yes, did at times decide between two positions or decide a case, things like that. That's part of what these leaders or judges did. Sometimes they did judge, like we would think of it today, but really it's more than that. It's bigger than that. These were leaders of the people. All right. So let's talk about the period of the judges then. If you look at the timeline, um, the period of the judges, the period of these leaders, took place after the wandering in the wilderness, after the people entered into the Promised Land. You see the fall of Jericho there, right around the year 1400. The period of the judges lasts for quite a while, about 400. Okay, and we're going to read about one of the judges, Gideon, and we are going to be reading Judges 6, 1 through 40, and then Judges 7, 1 through 25. This is maybe a longer section, but I think it's a really interesting story for a lot of different reasons. So hopefully you will read through those chapters. And we'll see in these chapters that God worked many miracles Question number 1. At the time of Gideon, which nation was causing trouble for God's people? See chapter 6, verse 1. So, who was causing so much trouble? This time it was the Midianites. The Midianites were a group of nomadic tribes that lived to the east. To the east of the Promised Land was the desert. So, these are some nomadic desert tribes that were moving into the Promised Land, moving into the land of Israel, and causing all sorts of problems. Number 2, what were the Midianites doing to the Israelites? Describe the situation, describe the problem. Number 3, what did God's people finally do in the midst of all of this suffering? Number 4, what accusation did God make against his people through an unnamed prophet? God sends this prophet. We aren't even told his name. His name isn't important. What's important is his message. And what is his message from God to these people? Number 5, why do you think that Gideon was afraid when he realized that he was seeing God face to face? Look at chapter 6, verse 22. So this uh, visitor comes to Gideon, and here. But number 6, how did God reassure Gideon? Number 7, often the Israelites' unfaithfulness to God centered around worshiping other gods. What command did God give to Gideon to begin to undo this problem? What does God tell him to do? Number 8, how did the townspeople react when they saw the altar to the false god Baal and the pole dedicated to the false goddess Asherah destroyed? How did they feel about this? Number 9, what reasonable argument did Joash, Gideon's father, propose to keep the people from killing Gideon? Number 10, what signs did God give to Gideon to assure him that the Lord would be there to help him, that he would rescue his people from the Midianites' hands? See chapter 6, verses 36 to 40 for these special signs. So you get the sense that Gideon is maybe a little bit reluctant, a little bit nervous about carrying out this mission. He tears down the altars at night, right, so that people won't know right away. Number 11, review chapter 7. In what ways did God make it very clear that victory against the Midianites was God's doing, and not Gideon's doing or the Israelite army's doing? Note that according to Judges 8:10, which we didn't read, the Midianite army was 135,000 men. That is a huge army. That's a swarm of locusts, right? Like they're described. How does God make it clear that it's not the strength of Gideon, it's not the strength of the Israelite army that is going to win the victory over this huge army of the Midianites? Number 12, why do you suppose that during the time of the judges the people kept forgetting about God and serving false gods? Why does this cycle keep repeating, do you think? Number 13, how do we often behave like the people of Israel in their unfaithfulness toward God? Review the First Commandment below. We've looked at the First Commandment before. It's printed for you again on page 66. Are we sometimes guilty of falling into the same cycle of having these same motivations of being like the Israelites? Take some time to think about that and discuss that. Number 14, how does God rescue us from our unfaithfulness? How does God rescue us from our unfaithfulness? If you think of all of our unfaithfulness, all of our sins on one side, 135,000 sins on the one side. On the other side, what is there? Not even 300 men. God doesn't rescue us by using 300 soldiers, 300 warriors. He sends one man, one warrior to rescue us. He rescues us through Jesus Christ. Through Jesus Christ, He gives us forgiveness. Um, and another thing that we should talk about, and you see it here on the screen, sometimes God rescues us first of all by using troubles to get our attention. Um, this was the first step in God helping the Israelites back in the time of the judges. The first thing that He did very often was to send some foreign army against them to cause them trouble, to get their attention. Sometimes God uses troubles in our lives to get our attention. And so He gets our attention. He shows us that there's a problem here, right? And then when we see what the problem is, then He forgives all of our sins through Jesus Christ. And through the message of forgiveness through the gospel, He strengthens us, strengthens our faith, strengthens our desire to do what is right in life, to hopefully stop this cycle in our own lives. But ultimately, how does God rescue us? He rescues us through Jesus Christ and the forgiveness that Jesus won for us. Number 15, what can we do to keep from repeating this cycle of unfaithfulness in our own lives? Can we stop this cycle? What can we do? Take some time to think about that. So, in one sense, we will never completely be able to stop this cycle from going on in our own hearts and lives while we're in this world. We have a sinful nature, this sinful flesh that we are constantly fighting against and dealing with, and our own sinful nature wants to go back into sin and unfaithfulness and unbelief, and so we will, to some degree, experience this cycle in our lives until we are set free from our sinful natures, set free from our sinful flesh on the last day. Um, but that doesn't mean that we will give in to sin. Well, if the cycle is just going to repeat, if my sinful flesh is going to drag me down, I guess I'll just let it. I'll just give in to sin and temptation. No, absolutely not. We fight against sin and temptation. How do we do that? By constantly, daily repenting of our sins, constantly, daily hearing God's word where we find forgiveness and strength. And so this is a battle that we are fighting every single day of our lives. When we get to the Catechism next year, we're going to see this. The Catechism talks specifically about this. When we talk about what baptism means for our daily lives, well, as baptized believers, baptized people of God, we are committing ourselves to fighting this battle every single day. Through daily repentance, we put off our sins. Every day we hear God's promises and take them to heart. And so the life of a Christian is not a life of laziness, is not a life of ease and pleasure. The life of a Christian is a life of battle. We are fighting constantly against temptation. And we are constantly going back to God's Word. That's why it's so important to keep going to God's Word over and over and over again. This is not something where we say, well, I read God's word once, I heard it once or twice, I know the basics, and so I'm good, I'm set for life. It doesn't work that way. This is something that we have to keep doing every single day because the battle rages every single day. The battle for our hearts, the battle for our eternal future. Okay, let's look at the key questions then. A, what cycle repeated itself throughout more than 300 years of Israel's history after the Israelites entered the Promised Land? And this is the cycle that we talked about. The people were unfaithful to God. God sent an enemy to wake them up, get their attention. The people turned to God, and God delivered them. B, what did God do over and over to rescue his people from their unfaithfulness? God sent judges, and again, that word judges, don't think of guys in black robes. Judges here, we're talking about leaders, chieftains, warriors, something like that. He sent these leaders to rescue them. And the book of Judges is about these series of leaders. It's a very interesting book. We're not going to read through much of it here in this class, but if you want to read more about these judges, there are a lot of very interesting stories about these judges in the book of Judges. And then C, how does God rescue us from our unfaithfulness over and over again? He continues over and over again to give us forgiveness through his gospel. All right, homework for next time. Please review the First Commandment. I think this is at least the second or third time that we've had this for memory work. That maybe will indicate to you how important the First Commandment is. It's a short one. Please do make sure that you have that committed to memory. And then there is also a Bible passage that I'd like for you to memorize. The book of Lamentations, we don't read from the book of Lamentations very often or memorize it, but a really important, very comforting couple of verses in Lamentations chapter 3, verses 22 and 23 that talk about the fact that God's mercies are new every morning, that as we continue to struggle and fight and battle against sin, God continues over and over again to give us his forgiveness, and then be able to answer the key questions for lesson 18. All right, that does it for this lesson. Thanks for joining me once again. Hopefully this lesson worked out for you. I am actually recording this from quarantine at home. I had a close contact with someone who tested positive for COVID. So I'm doing this from home. Hopefully the quality and everything is fine and it works out for you. But if it sounds a little bit different or looks a little bit different, that's why. But I'll be back at church here soon, God willing. So let me know if you have any issues, any questions, any comments. I'm available by phone or email, whatever works best for you. Thanks again, and God's blessings to all of you.